Max, which I go to TJ, so it's not a surprise thing. But the credit card company called me, and I was like, how did they know that wasn't me? Why did they flag that one? But my phone was with me. I wasn't. They knew where I was. If they're connected to my phone at all, they know where I am, and they knew I wasn't at TJ Maxx, which is disturbing, right? Otherwise, why would they all of a sudden flag one purchase from TJ Maxx, which was correct, but none of the others?
Maybe it depends on what they bought.
No, it wasn't a huge amount of stuff.
So weird.
Yeah,
Wow.
It was weird. So that just happened this morning when I couldn't pay for something, and I was like, I just thought, how did they know that wasn't me? Why did that one raise alarms?
I always thought it was creepy how on Facebook you can tell the second. There's no way to hide that you read something. It's like, really?
It's awful.
I mean, you can't pretend that you didn't see it because they automatic. So what, is there a camera in there? Or I don't understand how it works.
Actually, somebody just used my fiance's credit card in Russia and bought like a video game and a Friends hoodie. I'm like, that's the most Russian thing I've ever heard.
It really is. That's all you need in Russia.
Yeah,
a Friends hoodie.
Oh
my God, that's hilarious.
My landlady from like 7 years
for you.
My landlady from like 8 years ago just called to tell me that I had a declined application to Home Depot, and she's like, "I know you. You don't go to Home Depot." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. I live in a building with a maintenance crew. What the hell?" So anyway, but so back to death.
Yeah.
So when like was your focus on the topic solely inspired by having to deal with this with your father, and then you broadened out, or had this been the whole concept of how we deal with death, or the way it's sort of an industry, for lack of a better word? Did that ever cross your mind before having to deal with it?
No, because I thought that my parents wouldn't die, and I thought I was going to be one of those really lucky ones where, I would just have the first parents that didn't die. I was like, that's cool. That's nice for me. Yeah. And so I was incredibly shocked when my dad died. He was 83 and he was an ex-smoker and he had lung cancer, so it shouldn't have been shocking, but it was.
It's a pretty solid run.
I think, it's not bad at all. You can't complain about that. And so part of it was me realizing, why was I so unprepared for this? And I have friends whose parents died way earlier and they're okay. And yet I'm 48 and I'm like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to anyone. And I could see outside from myself that my response was, a little ridiculous considering how lucky I was,
Yeah, but how do you prepare for that?
Right. I don't know.
What do you do?
Yeah. Well, there's a few ideas here, but you really can't because my mom is still alive and I know that I know what I should be doing with her, and I still can't do it because she still drives me crazy. Like, part of the problem is you love your parents, but they're still themselves, and then when they're removed, then there's a space for you to breathe, and you're like, oh wait, I want to say this and I want to say that, and now I can think and I can process you, but you can't do it while they're alive, and it's really fucking frustrating. Sorry, it's really frustrating.
It's okay.
And the title is off one of the chapters is "Dead People Sucks. Why won't they tell us? Why won't they tell us if there's an afterlife?"
Yeah.
And they could really help out if they could just visit us in a dream, like have one nice conversation in a dream.
How hard is it?
I know.
What are they doing that's keeping them so busy?
Who knows? It could be orgy. I mean, every human being that's ever lived it has died is, if there's a collection of them, they're up there.
Right.
Would it? I'd be having coffee every day with somebody, or having sex with them, or whatever. If it's anything like this.
Didn't Houdini and his wife had sort of like an arrangement like that, where after he died, to debunk like fake mystics and seers and stuff, like get them to use this code word, and that's how you'll know if it's real.
Yeah,
and no one ever did.
Yeah.
Wow. So then you also did a special, the 45 jokes about my dead dad. Mm-hmm. I assume this material is different from that. So what inspired? I mean, what was the different, I guess, creative process in both of those projects?
I repeated a couple jokes in the book, just because they worked well on paper.
We forgive you.
But it's like 98% different stuff. And the special was just stand up. It's a different kind of thing to get somebody to laugh on a stage, when the waitress is interrupting the audience for drink orders or what, you have a lot to battle. So jokes have to be sort of pared down in a way, or maybe dumbed down in a way. And also I had a lot of stuff that I felt worked if you were going to sit and read versus if you were at a nightclub. It's just a different way to take in something funny. And so I just wrote a book. It's sort of separate.
Do you remember, was there like a first joke after your dad died or about your dad dying that you remember helping you?
It was before he died. It was about, dang it, I kind of don't remember it now, but it was something about how my son's top concern was who would inherit Grandpa's iPad. And then I think one of the jokes that helped, or one of the first ones that started working, was my dad's birthday was in December, and I was like, and he was dying. And my worry was, do I get him something he wants or something I want to inherit in 2 months?
When my mom was in hospice, my sister lives on the East Coast. I'm out here in L.A., and our mom was back home in Chicago. And, she's dying, so, she's frail and losing weight. And, it was a little chilly at the hospice. So she was like, yeah, could you bring me like a couple of hoodies? Like, yeah, absolutely. And I went shopping, and I'm like, all right, well, I got to be fair. I got to pick out something that I'm going to want, then pick out something that my sister's going to want. And of course, my sister was like, oh, I want the black one. It's like, no, that's the one I bought for me. This one is for you.
Yeah, you gotta be a little selfish.
That's off Dave's special.
It's planning ahead.
Yeah.
It's
one joke
like,
about Dave's dead mom.
And plus we know that mom's going to be cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, she's like, she's been dressed me for years. I know what she wears.
Do you talk to your mom often?
Yeah, she lives with me, so I talk to her
pretty often. Almost daily.
Yeah. My first question is, "Are you still alive?" And she responds, "I heavy sigh."
So your mom moved in with you after your dad passed?
Yeah.
Okay, just was wondering if they were both with you before.
How's your son feel about that?
He's fine. I mean, I don't know, you were an 11-year-old boy once, and
briefly.
Would you want to live with a 80-year-old woman? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. 80-year-olds are tough to live with.
Sure.
And so, yeah.
They do get the good meds.
They do. I hope my son isn't on her meds.
I'm just thinking about myself as a youth.
No 11-year-old boy is going to have less osteoporosis than your son.
That's true. His joints are in great shape.
I can't even imagine.
Just watch the Jared
Mine were at about 13.
Gee whiz.
Oh my God.
So was there anything do you have any thoughts having gone through this, and if you don't want to go into this topic, it's fine, but do you have any thoughts about how American healthcare is working now and where we're at and all that, either serious or funny? Do you feel that it's given you any insights dealing with all this?
It's first of all, I have great health care because I belong to the Writers Guild. Yeah. I'm in a union, and so I'm really lucky. And my dad was a Tea Party Republican, mm-hmm. and I remember him just being obsessed with death panels right around the time Obama was trying to pass Obamacare.
A simpler time.
Yeah, and. Of course, when he was dying, there was no death panel. Everyone helped him live as long as possible. And I just kept, towards the end, I didn't want to be like, oh, yeah, so I guess you were wrong. But I really wanted him to go, you were wrong. Because no one denied you any care. You were given 6 to 12 months. You got 9. And, you got all the chemo that you were allowed to get. You weren't without any care, so...
Do you ever read about advancements in medical technology and cancer treatments these days, and you're like, son of a bitch?
I know. I think there's they're mapping genomes and stuff like that.
Where the hell was that 4 years ago?
Dang it!
How hard was it?
I know. Yep. I think there's a couple of kinds of lung cancer. Most people get lung cancer, or maybe I don't know if this statistic is right, but a lot of people that get it aren't smokers, but I think lung cancer is a stigma, like, well, you kind of brought it on yourself. So I think less money goes to solving lung cancer, but a lot of people that never smoked get it,
Bogus.
I used to go in Chicago, back in the late 90s. I lived there, and for a couple of years I helped another comic out with, she had a thing called Humor Heals, and she would have, I was pretty much the only person who could handle going more than once. I went for almost 2 years, because I grew up for a couple of years as a kid on the grounds of a VA and doctor's house, and my dad was a VA doctor, so I guess I was used to seeing all sorts of horrible misery early on and processing it. But we would go on Wednesday nights and perform, or like go door to door and like either say hi or tell a few jokes to people in the cancer ward, because her mom had died of brain cancer there. And she thought, that her mom always liked her joking around. But I always wondered, like, I don't know if you have any thought of, like, now I look back and I'm like, were they glad to have us there? Or were they like, oh God, these guys again, why am I being interrupted and, and being told, hey, try to laugh like once a week?
I have no idea. I do know you can't go out in front with a lot of people when you're really sick. So, having it brought to you might be nice. I don't know.
Well, also probably nice to have someone talk to you about, anything else.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, or joke about how crappy the hospital looks.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
A lot of good Jello humor.
Yeah.
A lot of Jello humor.
Jello humor,
If I wind up in a situation where, it's a prolonged death, I will have no qualms about, hey, listen, appreciate it, but having a crappy day here, so if you could, fuck off for a while. Come back next time.
Dave,
maybe I'll be in a mood.
That constitutes a living will. That's legally binding.
I'm fine with that.
So
let the record.
I'll just
stand.
sneak some weed in for you, and everybody be happy.
Wait, sneak?
I'll just throw a handful of weed.
There
at
we
you.
go. So I wanted to ask, anything you can tell us about what it's like working on Conan, and have you worked with any of the other late night shows before that? Or?
I love Conan. It's great. It's the most fun I've ever had on a late night show. I've worked on a couple, and it's weird. Like we get to spend about an hour a day with Conan, just in various meetings, and he's the funniest person in the whole world.
Oh, that's great.
And so I've worked with funny people that really aren't that funny off stage, and they're just stressed and they're not fun to be with. And he's really fun to be around.
You don't hear a lot of Me Too stuff coming out of Conan's.
No. It's a lot of Irish guys who are terrified of women. It's a me now. Get away from me.
What, 7 sisters?
I think he has a couple sisters. I think there's 6 total in his family. Yeah, but no, it's a good working staff and relationships and stuff like that.
Are there any other women on the staff? Or
there's another female writer named Jessie Gaskell, and she's great. I'm a mono writer and she's a sketch writer, and she does a lot of travel shows with Conan because she speaks at least one other language, I think, and then there's women all over the staff, executive producers.
That's
and
cool.
Stuff like
Has
that.
it always been your lady, right? Has it always been your
Making
experience?
the big stories here, Kevin?
Yeah. Well, my dad's a journalist. Has that in your career, in your experience, has it always been the case? Have you encountered any kind of discrimination? Have you found it harder
as a woman in comedy? I've never encountered any discrimination.
Nice.
I'm being sarcastic, you dumbasses. What kind of a question is that? Have you? It
was a softball.
Been sexist
You're ahead of us.
You're in show business.
I thought I'd lob one over the plate for you.
Yeah, sure, but who cares?
Okay.
And can you anecdotally refer to anything? You don't have to name names, but although we'd love you if you did.
I think what Carl is getting at is
that.
Well, yeah.
I just meant. Was there any you don't have to name names. I'm just saying was there anybody who was an obnoxious boss or something like that or whatever? I mean,
yeah.
Was there anything that stood out as might be seen as funny awful, which is what we love to get out of people here?
No.
Okay.
That's acceptable.
Sorry.
Accept that.
Okay, all right.
Sometimes tragedy is just tragedy. Kind of weird.
Wow. So, okay, well, you mentioned that you grew up Catholic and your life's Catholic. Any funny memories from what inspired the lapsing, although so many do. But any
were you ever raped at a church?
No.
Who wasn't? What do you mean? We all were.
Anyway, it just meant
that's confirmation, isn't it? Wait a minute. Let me just.
I'm Jewish, so I missed out on that whole thing. Confirmed. I'm still waiting to be validated.
Yeah, there you go. Did you go to Catholic school?
Yeah, I went to Catholic high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And